You are now listening to Renaissance Soul.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Renaissance Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And for this episode, I'm joined by Dave Stevens, founding member and vocalist of the Troy, Michigan metalcore band We Came as Romans, as we talk about their debut album, To Plant a Seed. Originally released on November 3rd of 2009 via Equal Vision Records, a deluxe edition of the album was released on January 18th of 2011, which includes one bonus track and a DVD titled To Plant a DVD. In covering this monumental debut album, we talk about the beginnings of the band through their early touring and their two EPs, Dreams and Demonstrations, both self-released in 2008 before getting signed to Equal Vision. We also go track by track throughout the album, and Stevens just shares some stories about the song or making of it. We also touch upon the vocal contributions of the late Kyle Pavone, who passed away in 2018, for this album. We Came as Romans originally were going to tour this album to both celebrate it and retire the songs from their live shows when the pandemic hit and were able to do a handful or so shows before all live music was canceled. We discussed the reasoning for that tour, as they are set to do a live stream on April 23rd of 2021, playing To Plant a Seed in its entirety. And you can purchase tickets or the merch bundles over at thebarricade.live. So, without further ado, after a short word from our sponsor, let's get into We Came as Romans, To Plant a Seed with Dave Stevens. Hey, welcome back to the Renaissance Soul Podcast, and now I'm joined with a very special guest, founding member and vocalist of the Michigan metalcore band We Came as Romans, Dave Stevens, as we talk about their debut album, To Plant a Seed. How's it going, Dave?
Good, man. How about you?
Yo, staying busy, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, same, as much as I can.
First and foremost, like to just say, rest in peace to Kyle Pavone. He founding member of We Came as Romans, and passed away a couple years ago in 2018. Definitely like big part of this group, big part of the sound. So I just want to say, rest in peace to Kyle.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that, of course.
Okay, to start things off, when To Plant a Seed came out in November of 2009, and then there was a deluxe edition that came out in January 2011. When looking back during that time, you guys had a couple EPs that came out before that, and one was called Dreams and the other was called Demonstrations.
Yeah.
Where were you guys all, where were you guys at in life during that time? Why did this band sort of come together? How did it all get started?
It was a very different lineup. I was actually at a U of M and Michigan State football game party. I was a senior in high school. One of my friends was there, and I was in a Christian pop punk band at the time, and I really wanted to try playing heavier music. I was into The Bled and The Used and Story of the Year, and all these bands were just coming out, and they kind of got me into heavier music, I guess, and it made me want to start playing heavier music. So I said to my friend, I was like, let's mess around, let's try jamming a little bit. And long story short, Josh, our current guitarist, came in audition, joined the band. It started turning into a thing. I eventually wound up moving to vocals, and then we parted ways with our vocalist, and that's when Kyle joined in, and part of it was our bass player. Andy joined in, and we wound up pretty much coming to the lineup we have now over those first few years. First few years is like a revolving door with members, and then we got pretty dialed in and set. And but yeah, I mean, it just started with me kind of wanting to try something weird, and I was getting kind of tired of the Christian pop punk stuff.
Yeah, during that time, when it came to at the time, Eric Choi, you basically still have the same, group here in 2021.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like what do they say? That a band is a dysfunctional family that you choose. And I mean, we all love each other. We fight like, brothers a lot, but at the end of the day, we're family. We own a business together, and we've done, pretty well for ourselves. So we always try to let the small stuff slide, and the big stuff we're able to work through most of the time. It's crazy though. I mean, that we have been together as long as we have, and have had as few member changes as we have, and we must be doing something right, I guess, to have that all work out.
When you kind of got things a little bit more solidified in the band, and you started working on those EPs, what was sort of like, what was going on with the band? How were you guys sort of feeling each other out still, trying to figure out what this band was going to be? Like, when did it, like, this iteration of the band that you're in, when did it, like, this is going to be, we're taking this seriously, and we're going to put some stuff out, when did that happen?
It was after the Dreams EP, if I'm remembering right. To record the Dreams EP, we needed to come up with a few $1,000s. We weren't signed or anything. We didn't have a label or an agent. All we had was a manager who was just a friend, and we had no money. So Eric had just graduated high school, and he put up his graduation money to record the Dream EP, essentially. And we went in, we recorded it, and we were just trying to be like a big regional band. We just wanted to play Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. It's all like we really had in mind. And then it started to kind of gain traction. The shows went from being, maybe 10 people, or actually I shouldn't say that. The shows went from being just the Girlfriends and the other bands to like maybe 10 people to like 20. And then it kind of kept growing. Like around here, we were doing like 100 tickets, 200 tickets. And then we kind of kept going out to the East Coast, hitting like New Jersey. We started doing really well out there. And then down as far south as like Kentucky and Georgia. And then all of a sudden it was weird. It was kind of like we had some traction. We had agents coming out to talk to us and labels kind of talking to us. And that's when we were all like, hey, we should maybe put this college thing on hold and put these jobs at home on hold and see what happens with this. Because we were just doing like weekend runs. We'd leave on a Friday as soon as our drummer Eric was off work, and all of us were off work, and we'd come back like 2 a.m. Sunday night and 3 a.m. So yeah, that's kind of when we took the leap of faith. And my parents were like, "You're doing what?" I was in culinary school at the time, and I was like, "I'm going to put this on hold. I'm going to try to do the band." And they were like, "What the hell? you want to pursue a band?" And I mean, yeah, I'm glad we all did, because it took us making that leap of faith to make it work, or else we just would have kept playing bars and playing for 5 or 10 people forever.
Okay, you were doing like culinary. Like, what was all the other things that the jobs and everything that the other band members were doing at the time?
Josh worked at McDonald's. Andy would steal his parents' pop cans and beer cans and go and return them. Eric didn't have a job yet. Louis would go and replace sprinkler heads or something. I don't remember what Kyle was doing. Yeah, we were all over the place, man. I remember one of our trips out to New Jersey, actually. I always tell this story because it's kind of wild how things work out. We had to make the show because an agent that wanted to start booking us was going to be there, and we had to play and, show him what we could do live, and which at the time was pretty horrific, but he saw something in us. And on the way there, our van wound up catching on fire in Ohio. Like the whole
Yo.
dash, everything just caught on fire. And so we stopped at a Home Depot and we bought like tap lights and spray painted them red and put them on the back of the trailer to look like tail lights, and no electrical in the whole thing, pitch black. I wound up ringing up headlights like straight to the battery to make it work. And we somehow made the show still, but that sort of reminds me of those days, just anything to make the shows happen and make it work.
How are you guys, getting that traction? How are you guys getting the word out? Because I know with bands like yours, during like the early 2000s, MySpace was very helpful with bands linking up with other bands, locally, regionally, and everything. And this, We Came as Romans, kind of started as the other social medias were, starting to start up, and MySpace was kind of a little bit on its downturn. So, but
Yeah.
how are you guys able to sort of get that traction out there?
Yeah, MySpace actually had a lot to do with it, which is funny. Um, I don't know from a marketing perspective if it did so much, but we would use it to book shows. Like I would reach out to other bands in the regions that we were trying to hit and
Yeah.
offer show trades where we'd bring them to Michigan. They'd bring us to one of their hometown shows.
Yeah, I think that's what a big tool was of MySpace. You could, find
Yeah.
everybody in a region and, link up with them.
So yeah, we would do that to book tours and stuff, which was cool. And then I think one of the smartest things we ever did was release the Dreams EP for free, because this is before Spotify or any of that stuff. Like you had to buy music back then,
Yeah.
actually purchase each song. And so we recorded that EP and we could have sold it, but we just decided to throw it up on anywhere we could on the internet for free, let anyone they want download it. And that actually got us a lot of traction because it was in way more people's hands than if people would have had to buy it.
Yeah.
So that was huge too. Yeah, it was kind of the start of social media when that came out, and it really helped us hit our stride.
Yeah, I remember that time when like bands would do that, like do a little, like do a little free EP or whatever, just to get
Yeah,
out there, and it helped a lot of bands.
hell yeah. I don't know if we would have had the amount of success we had as quickly as we had it if we would have tried to sell that EP. We were still such a little baby band. A lot of people wouldn't have bought it.
Just young kids, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Early on when you're, making these treks to different cities, different regions, how long did it take before you guys started feeling good as a live band?
Dude, I'll be honest. I really don't think we became good as a live band till like probably somewhere during our third record cycle. It's just such a hard thing to um get the hang of and perfect,
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of bands like us get signed really young and you haven't even really fully developed your instrument yet, or
Yeah.
your singing yet, or whatever you're doing. And then, you get thrown out on the road playing shows 6, 7 days a week for 5, 6 weeks. And it's like, figure it out. And slowly you do start to figure it out. But to get to a point that wasn't embarrassing on stage, let's say, probably during the Deplant Seed cycle, I think we started to become like a professional quote unquote band at that point. We were doing it enough where people could come out and see us and we wouldn't completely botch every song.
Okay, so you guys getting this traction. You guys got a couple EPs out. What happens to where you're able to, make that next jump to be able to start writing and recording to plant a seed?
uh, that one was wild, man, because the Dreams EP did so well. We kind of just viewed To Plant a Seed as like a continuation of everything we were doing on the Dreams EP. So that's why we went back to Joey. And the thing with To Plant a Seed, we kind of had a head start because we had other songs that we were kind of working on that we just couldn't afford to record with the Dreams EP. Um, What else is cool is too, on the Dreams EP, we were playing more shows, more music than we ever had. So we were all getting a little better at our instruments and better at writing. And, uh, but yeah, it was just an accumulation of a lot of years of dreaming and, wanting to be a pro band. That's something that everyone always says is you have your whole life to write your first record.
Yeah.
And then a few months to write your second. So, I mean, it's kind of true to Plant a Seed. We had a long time to think about what we wanted, how we wanted it to sound, and draw inspiration from all different places. And we were really inspired by Sky Eats Airplane at the time. I don't know if you remember that band, but they were like doing all this crazy MacBook stuff where like their MacBook was doing all this programming, and we thought that was the coolest thing ever. So we figured out how to do it. And we had just started doing it a little bit on the Dreams EP, playing to a click track and having all these tracks going on while we played.
Yeah.
And then once we got good at it on To Plant a Seed, I mean, I think that was the biggest difference, is that's when we were able to add in orchestras and lots of programming. And I think that's what made that record extra special, is at the time, not many people were doing that. So that was a cool thing to be able to incorporate,
What were those studio sessions like when you were making those first two EPs?
Kind of a shit show. I mean, none of us really knew what we were doing. Like the EP before Dreams, Demonstrations, we just recorded at Michigan State in our friend's basement, and we would just go there and there'd be a party going on, and we would just kind of be recording on the side of the party, basically. It was such a shit show. And then the Dreams EP was definitely a step up, and we were taking it way more seriously, but we didn't know what we were doing. The only studio experience we had was at the Michigan State frat house in the basement, And then during the Dreams EP, we kind of started to figure out how to do it, how to take it seriously. And we were really, really prepared for it, though, which was cool. And Joey Sturgis respected that. And I think he saw where the band could go. And then leading up to Plant a Seed, we were like really, really ready at that point. We had some real studio experience and definitely learned a ton during the Plant a Seed recording too. So it's just been a learning experience, man. I mean, we're still learning when we go into the studio.
Okay, so To Plant a Seed would come out on Equal Vision Records. Did you guys already start working on the material for that before you linked up with them, or was that something you guys got signed off of the EPs and then you started?
Both. I mean, we had stuff up our sleeves that we were working on in a direction that we wanted the record to go. But we didn't. I don't really remember us really buckling down and writing until it was getting closer to like getting into the studio. And what was cool about that record is we kind of reverted back to is we demoed all the songs before actually going into the studio, which was cool. It's almost like we like forgot that we used to do that, because on our second and third record we didn't. And the fourth record we did some demos, but the most recent record we just did, we went back to doing the let's demo everything before we go into the studio. And that's something we learned on A Plant a Seed, how important it is to demo the songs first. So we were listening to these songs, getting used to them, but then thinking of new ideas, ways to make them better. So by the time we were tracking it in the studio for real, it had already been through several renditions, several drafts, and each song just got a little better and better and better along the way.
How did y'all link up with Equal Vision Records?
They we had an offer from, we had several offers. I remember it being I don't want to name any names, but there was a few labels that were trying to sign us at the end of the year before we actually signed, and the offers were all like pretty terrible. And Equal Vision contacted us and was like, hey, you guys are probably getting offers, but just wait it out. We'll send you a good offer. We were like, okay, we'll wait. So we politely declined the other labels that were sending us offers and heard out Equal Vision. They actually were the only label that came out to actually meet us and see a show. So they came out to this venue in Georgia, and we met in this like terrible dressing room upstairs. It was like a ratty old couch and like some weird carpet, and it was barely bigger than like a bathroom. And it was our new manager at the time, our old manager as well, and then our artist representative from Equal Vision actually came to see the show, which was cool. And it probably was, we probably didn't play well, but what was cool about him is I think he saw something bigger in us. Like he saw what the band could maybe grow to be. And for a rookie band, a band with no experience, he actually gave us a pretty fair deal. And so we signed, and they were good to us, man. Like I still have a really good relationship with our artist representative from the time. And I text with him. He comes out and sees us when we play New York. And even though we're not in Equal Vision anymore, but they were a good group of people and good for a new young band like us,
Once you got signed to Equal Vision, what was sort of like the first things that you guys did?
We just toured, man. We took like any and every tour that was offered to us. Back then social media stuff was just kind of kicking off. Nowadays a band can sit at home and promote themselves, and they can get huge on the internet first and then maybe go tour. But back then it was just like getting out in front of people, touring. I mean, I remember back then touring like 250, 300 days a year.
Yeah.
And that's all they wanted us to do. They just, once the record was out, it was just tour forever.
How long before, how long did it take from when you guys got signed to when To Plant a Seed came out?
Oh man, I don't remember, to be honest. I'd say like probably like a year or so. I'm trying to remember. I think we signed. Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. It was so long ago. It feels like a lifetime ago.
Right. All right, let's get into the songs on the album. I just want to talk about like any fond memories you have, anything about it, any stories attached to the songs. So let's go with the first song. It's the title track of the album, To Plant a Seed.
I think my fondest memory of that song is that was the first music video we ever recorded.
Yeah.
So that was really exciting. We'd never done one before. So that was cool. We were in Virginia, and Virginia never gets snow. So it was kind of weird that the night before we were supposed to shoot, it got like pounded with snow. Which wound up actually making it look kind of cool, we thought, but it wasn't supposed to have snow. But we were such a baby band, and the video budget was like nothing. We just had to do it. Yeah, and I think that song was like the first song of ours that ever like gave me chills. When I first heard it, I was like, holy shit, this is something special.
Yo. Yes. I mean, it's a hell of a way to like start off an album, and for you guys who are like kind of introducing yourselves on a bigger level, it's a hell of a way to just introduce yourselves as a band. And Kyle's vocals on there, some of those lines he says, whew, yo, man, I was just like re-listening to it and watching that video, and I was like, yo, this is putting me in my feelings.
Yeah, there's something special going on in that song. I think it the way that Joey programmed it and the way that the song came together, and then the lyrics as well, it's just, I don't know, something special in that song, that's for sure. And the first time I heard it, I remember I got the hairs all standing up, and I had this rush through me. I was like, whoa, this song's awesome.
Totally, man. Yo. The next joint is Broken Statues.
That song's funny because it got way bigger than I thought it would have, because that song leaked like really early. I don't know how or what happened, but and it wasn't even like a mastered or mixed version or anything, but it was the first song people had heard of ours since the Dreams EP. And I remember people like flipping out in a good way online and stuff. that it was amazing, and it started getting all this traction. And of course, like before we could take it down, everyone already had it, and so we just ran with it. We were like, "Fuck it, I guess we'll just make it a single then." And it wasn't supposed to be, but it worked out.
That's what happened during that time.
Yeah, seriously, all the time.
Everybody was trying to figure it out, man. Like,
Yeah.
the next song is Intentions, featuring Tyler Smith.
Yeah, Telly being on that was pretty funny. They were just like rolling through, and we had finished a quick like 3 week tour with them, and it was a last minute thing. We're like, "You want to sing on the song?" He's like, "Yeah." So they just stopped by the studio on their way home from a tour, and he laid it down real quick, and then they got back in the van and kept driving. um, I don't have a ton of memories of that one while recording to Plant a Seed because it was on the Dreams EP, so I'm a little more tied to it there. But I remember the orchestral stuff that we did. I mean, we thought it was the coolest thing in the world because we hadn't heard anybody do it.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
Yeah, that was something I really noticed, re-listening to it. I'm like, yo, this album seems very full, very big, And
Yeah.
I know these, and you look at you guys and you guys are like, yo, these guys are young, man. They're like in high school, just coming out of high school, whatever. And I'm like, man, this sounds full. It sounds big, in comparison to a lot of the other bands that would be, in your guys' lane.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that song was awesome when we first did it.
The next joint is Roads That Don't End and Views That Never Cease.
I remember getting in an argument over the start of this song. I wanted it to be like a breakdown, and Eric really wanted it to be like a drum roll thing like he does. And he wound up winning because he's the drummer. But then it was like 3 or 4 years later, we were still playing it. And he was like, dude, it is cooler with the breakdown. So live, he started playing it like a breakdown. So in the end, I was right.
Hey, man, never too late to, mix it up.
Yep.
When it came to, when it come to working in the studio for this album, what was sort of, how did everybody contribute? What was sort of the dynamic with everybody? Because you got a lot of guys in the room.
I don't know. I just remember it being like good vibes, a lot of excitement. It was a lot of waiting because everyone had like their part to do, but other people had to do their parts first. And we were all so broke at the time. We just took our van down all together, and Joey was nice enough to the producer was nice enough to just let us crash at his house. So we were all stuck there. It's not like, oh, this week is vocals. Like, Dave, you come in, and then when you're done, you can go home. No, we were all stuck there the whole time, but it was cool, man. I mean, we were all starving, just eating hot dogs and ramen noodles. And,
yeah.
I remember one night, I had just turned 21, and Joey's parents were in like this bar band, and they had come by and they were like, yeah, come out to our show. We're playing a wedding. Andy and I were like, whatever, we'll go. So like we took the van to this wedding, and Andy was still underage. I was of age, and we wound up like partying with all these locals in this little tiny small town in Indiana in some random person's wedding. Everyone was coming up to us like, who the hell are these guys? I totally forgot about that till you just mentioned it. Yeah, and Joey's parents' band was like playing and going nuts, and Andy and I were just back at the bar like, where the hell are we? I don't know, but there's a bar and it's open, so sweet. So yeah, good vibes. A lot of waiting your turn, but man, I forgot about that night.
Right. The next song is Dreams.
Interesting about Dreams is it was that song was written for the Dreams EP, and it was the first song ever written on the Dreams EP. And that song, it's so old that we actually started writing it with the keyboardist vocalist that was in the band before Kyle. So that song's so old it was even pre-Kyle. but it came out so great that we wanted to put it on To Plant a Seed as well, especially when Kyle sang his part. It like took it way, way up.
During the recording of To Plant a Seed, and also when you started working with him on the EP, what did sort of Joey bring to the table?
Um, he was just so good at programming, all the keyboards and synthesizers and stuff. And it was weird. We wanted to do something different, but we weren't really sure what it is. And he kind of helped us pinpoint what we were looking for, I guess. We were such a young band and we weren't even sure what we were supposed to sound like, but we had a general idea and he helped focus it and bring it in.
Right, you guys had like ideas, but he kind of like molded it.
Right, right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of other producers out there that at that time could have helped us do it the way he did it. That's for sure.
The next joint is "We Are the Reasons."
Uh, Damn, I don't know. I don't have a ton of memories of that one. It's cool that Andy's on that song. Does a little screaming line.
What's it about?
That's the only thing I think of.
What's that song about? From your perspective.
Um, I don't know, man. I don't want to misinterpret it because Josh writes most of the lyrics, and that one he wrote like 100% by himself. So I don't know. I don't want to misinterpret it or something.
What does it mean to you then? Like, what's just the song itself, man? Like, is there any meaning to yourself? Any just, feelings?
Yeah, I mean,
about
for
it?
me, it's like it's kind of like when you have I guess an ugly side to you. You want to kind of, you can feel it running through you and stuff, but you have to keep it bottled in sometimes. And it's still there, but you don't always want to let it out, I guess is the way that I take it,
Yeah.
whatever those negative traits that you have are. But I'm not 100% sure what Josh wrote it about specifically, but I think it's somewhere in that realm.
The next song is "Beliefs."
Beliefs. The end of the song, there's that like acoustic guitar with like the beat, and I remember Kyle and Andy like doing, not seriously at all, but like doing this funny ass freestyle rap over the back of it, and us all crying. We were laughing so hard, and Joey just like put it on repeat, and Kyle's just like, "Fuck it, ass is in a bucket." And so like now even like we were rehearsing that song for the Plant a Seed tour, and like Andy started doing it, and we all started dying laughing again. It's one of the funniest moments in the studio.
That's great. That's great. The next joint is "I Will Not Reap Destruction."
Um, yeah, that song kind of came in the way that it was, and it didn't change a ton, which is crazy. That song's a pretty just straight up driving metalcore song. Joey obviously like added badass production, keyboards, the whole spiel, and made it really sweet. But that song kind of came in and left in a similar way, which is wild. I feel like a lot of the songs changed a lot, but that one stayed pretty true.
The next song is "Searching, Seeking, Reaching, Always."
I'm gonna be honest. This song was just us like trying something different. We were like, hey, you never know, maybe it could have radio success, which is hilarious because that song would never have radio success. And we never played it up until that To Plant a Seed 10 anniversary tour. We had never played it live, and we for a minute we thought about it. We're like, if we don't play this, is anyone going to notice? And then my wife's best friend, after one of the practices, she was like, should we guys practice that song, Searching, Seeking, Reach? I'm like, are you kidding me? We almost weren't even gonna play it. And I was like, well, we have to play it now. Like if she would notice, I guess everyone else would notice too. So
Yo, yeah,
yeah, that one
don't underestimate, man, your fans and your listeners, man. They'll
yeah,
be like,
I guess I shouldn't.
be like, yo, you said you guys gonna play the whole album, you didn't play this one joint.
Yeah. None of us like, I hate to say it, but none of us really even like the song. But I guess there's people out there that do. So, we got to play it.
There always is, man. There's always those people that like the songs that you guys,
yeah,
any artist don't like, man. They'd be like, there's those people, man. There's those people.
Yep.
The next joint is An Ever-Growing Wonder.
Yeah, that song came out really cool. I remember listening to it. Like we were just listening through all the demos, and I don't know, I could just hear that it was going to be like a really awesome song, and it was cool. I got to write a bunch of lyrics with Josh on that one. We like worked together pretty well on that, and I remember like sitting on his dad's car when we were like practicing all the songs that we were going to record before we even left for the studio, and like trying to get them all written down. And I kind of wrote what I could come up with and then like gave them to Josh, and Josh ran with a bunch of them and gave them back to me. And it was cool to collab with him on that one. I'm trying to think of other stories with it. Yeah, I don't know. That song's sweet though. I still like playing that song on the 10-year anniversary tour. I would actually look forward to playing it still, which is cool. Because sometimes you look back at old songs and you're like, man, what were we thinking? That was dumb. But that one's great. I like that song still.
And the last joint was a song that was added when the deluxe edition was released. It was To Move On Is to Grow. And you guys also did a video for that.
Yeah. That video is a good representation of where the band went, like over the course of that record cycle. The band went from like a nobody band with a tiny little baby recording budget to like actually doing a real music video. So like, yeah, the To Plant a Seed video is still a music video, but To Move On Is to Grow was like a real music video. There was real cameras, people doing makeup, outfits, like the whole spiel you normally see in a music video.
Yeah, you could see the growth from that one video to the other.
Yeah, I mean, in that video, we were just shooting all day. Like someone was shooting the entire day, every second. But I don't know. I remember that day super vividly, I think, just because I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. There's makeup people, there's costume people, there's like caterers. There's a guy that his whole job is just to press play on the iPod to play the music in the background. And but yeah, man, that song is another great song. We played that song in normal sets up until probably just like 3-4 years ago. I mean, that song obviously did really well for itself.
What was the reasoning behind doing the deluxe edition release, which, had that bonus track, but then also had a DVD with it?
I think Equal Vision wanted to do it just to keep maximizing sales on that record. And we wanted to do it just to keep momentum going. Because we were about to go into a long writing process for Understanding What We're Going to Be, the record after. So we wanted to give the fans something to tide them over. And we just needed somewhere to put it. So we put it on a deluxe and re-released the record and put a DVD with it.
After the original release of To Plant a Seed, when everything was finished, when it was ready to be released, what was sort of your thoughts of hearing that, final product? What was the band feeling at that time about this final product?
Dude, I remember almost being in disbelief. Like I couldn't believe that the sound we had made, like we really, like I said, we went in there not really knowing how we wanted to sound. We had an idea, but we came out with, literally what was our band, which was so cool. Cause I think we were getting close on the Dreams EP, and then into Planet Seed, we really dialed in what makes We Came as Romans, We Came as Romans. So I was super excited. I knew that that record would, it would definitely bump us up a few notches. It bumped us up way more than that, which is crazy. But I was really confident leaving that it was going to do pretty well. And I couldn't wait for it to get released. I went home and like showed all my friends, showed my family. I mean, I was showing everybody. I was so excited. And yeah, and it's wild, man. I still look back on it and wonder like how it took off as much as it did. I think it's a combination of hard work and releasing the record at the right time, being on the right tours at the right time, and a little bit of luck too.
All of that, how did this album change your life and like the band's life?
Well, none of us went back to school. We're all still doing it. Yeah, dude, I thought I was just going to take a year off college, give the band a shot, and then go back. I just wanted to like give it my all and try, and it actually wound up turning into a career. And what's even crazier at this point is a lot of bands don't last as long as we've lasted.
Yeah.
And that's pretty wild to me too. I mean, when that record came out, if you told me when I was 32, I'd still be doing it, I would be like, no way, how, a lot of bands don't last this long. And pretty lucky. And I think we have just the right group of guys too. Like we all get along. You hear about bands breaking up because they just can't stand each other. We definitely don't have that. And we still to this day have a really good team that keeps things moving forward for us. It's wild, man. It's definitely changed all of our lives quite a bit. I mean, and like, there's like little things too. Like when I was in high school, I took German and I was like, why? I'm not going to pay attention. When the hell am I ever going to go to Germany? And now like I've been to Germany like 20 times. I mean, we've all traveled so much too, which is crazy. And
right.
It's just not a place I thought it would be.
Why do you feel like people really latched on to We Came as Romans at that time? What was so attractive about To Plant a Seed to these fans that you would get at the time?
I think a lot of it has to do with it just sounding a little different than some of the stuff that was coming out at the time. I don't think we were pushing the boundaries of like what metal is or anything. I mean, if you take away all the programming and the electronics we did, I do think it just sounds like a metal record. But when you add all that together, and then with some lyrics that I think were a little different than what was out at the time, it was just, I think, refreshing for listeners. And live too, we weren't that great at playing the songs yet, but we would go as hard as we could. Like we'd go out on stage and play as hard as we could, go as crazy as we could. I remember like Andy taking a guitar to the face one night, broke his nose, just kept playing, bleeding everywhere. I mean, it didn't matter. We just played hard. We played a lot. And I think people would come and see us and they'd see it as well. And I think that helped the record grow on people too.
Right. And you guys, at this time are like really like entering adulthood, and your fan base is going to be people like, teenagers and young adults. How do you feel like that affected your fan base? And then how did that affect you as you guys are, basically growing up now on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it is weird. I mean, our friends at home would be, in college and, moving into the dorms and all this stuff. And we'd be like, at the time, living out of a van. It was weird. I think it shaped us quite a bit. I think for a minute, like we were all getting really wild too. I mean, you take some college age kids and throw them in a tour bus and send them over to Europe. It's like, what do you think's going to happen? But, it did help us all become more cultured and grow up a little bit and learn independence really fast too. If you fuck up on tour, you can't call your mom and dad really, it's like, you're kind of on your own. You got to be responsible. If you make a mistake, it's all coming down on you. So, kind of made us all grow up pretty quick at the same time.
Right. Let's talk about the album artwork. It was done by Paul Romano,
Yeah.
and it has this look of like a child, and he has seed in his head, and it comes down to his heart, and then sprouts out branches and trees. Kind of like how did that sort of represent this album?
There's a lot of details in that artwork that I can't even remember all of them because it's down to even like the type of wood that he painted.
Yeah.
It's an olive branch, if I remember right. And olive branches are awesome because they're able to flex and they're really resilient to like high winds and bad weather. And Paul described it as like a lot of the record had this sense of like being compassionate to other humans, regardless of who they are, and just giving people what's the word? Like not compassion, but like just giving people a chance, I guess, and showing them a little love, blind faith, if you will, and us being able to kind of like bend and fold and fall into different groups of people, I guess, and incorporate everybody into one thing. I don't know. He explained it so much better than I am right now, but it's cool because he put all that thought into even just like the type of branches that this guy's holding, and it all like stems down to his heart. I wish Andy was here to describe this better too, because him and Paul like work really well together. It got to the point where Paul stopped doing any band's artwork except ours, just because ours and Mastodon's, just because he loved working with Andy so much. Because him and Andy would just like shoot ideas off each other, and then Paul would go to the canvas and paint them. And I actually got to see the Planet Seed original canvas painting in real life. It was amazing. Nice. It was cool. It was up in his studio, and he came like flying up on his bike and did like one of the skid like stops. And he was like, "What's up, guys?" Who's this guy? But he's awesome. I don't know if he's doing any band's artwork now except Mastodon, but he did all our first 5 records, all the artworks.
Right.
He's awesome.
Okay, so before the big COVID pandemic, you guys planned a 10th anniversary tour to Planet Seed, and it was basically gonna celebrate this album while also retiring it. What was the idea behind doing that?
As we're releasing new music and new records are the new singles and stuff, I guess we're playing more often. It's hard when you have such a big catalog. It's hard to play everything is what I'm getting at. So it's tough, when we have a new record coming out again sometime in the future. It's like once that record's out and we have a few other records in between that and to Planet Seed, it's like, how do we play everything? So we wanted to give it one last like goodbye, I guess, before we throw it into the vault. And doesn't mean we'll never ever play it again, maybe on a 15-year anniversary we would, or a 20-year or whatever. But like whenever we do play it, it'll be more of a special occasion instead of a every tour kind of thing. It's just tough, man. It's like we can't play to Planet Seed and fit all these songs in. And also that record came out so long ago. It's like it almost feels like we were a different band at the time or something. It's tough to play songs off that record and then like songs that we just more recently released, because they sound pretty different from each other.
Is it tough to play songs from this album, or maybe even any of the albums, without Kyle?
Yeah, man, it took me a lot of practice to be able to do both parts, especially in the older material, because we wrote it all crazy, like vocals overlapping and us singing and screaming at the same time. And especially for that record, like practicing for the Planet Seed anniversary tour, Andy was working his ass off and Josh was working his ass off because they had to help do the parts where all the vocals are overlapping at once. And it's impossible for one person to sing it no matter who you are.
And I kind of noticed Kyle's voice was a lot higher on that first record than maybe the next records.
Dude, that record was ridiculous. I felt bad for him. He put himself behind the eight ball on that. He was all excited about being in the studio and, then being able to tune his voice forever. And he was just singing for the highest notes he could. And then he got out on the road and he was like, oh shit, what did I do? And then every record after that, he toned it way down and started singing more in his range.
I can notice, man. I was going through a bunch of videos today, throughout different, records, and I'm like, man, Kyle's voice, he ain't even trying to sing that high in these later records, man.
He learned real quick.
And I'm like, I know why, man, because that's probably tough to do out live, some of that early stuff.
He got like PTSD from it. I think every time we went into the studio after that, he would have like a note that he would cut off at and be like, nope, too high, change it. Because he learned. I mean, he hated it when he had a bad show. He'd be so bummed out. And when you're setting yourself up like that, you just can't sing 6-7 nights a week for 5 weeks and hit those notes every night. You just can't. Nobody can. So, but still a great record regardless.
So, coming up, you're actually going to be doing a anniversary, live stream to plant a seed. What's that going to be about? Sort of like, what was the idea behind, just doing this live stream?
Man, it's not the way we would have chosen to do it, I guess. We wanted to do it live. But the pandemic hit and it sucks. We prepped for this tour for, man, I think we started talking about it like a year prior, and then we actually started really working our asses off on it for like 6 months.
And it was a hell of a lineup too, man. Shit.
Yeah. And then we were only on the road for a week. So there was only, I think, 5 cities that got to see it. And that's just a bummer. So much work went into it. We don't know what's going to happen with this pandemic or anything, and or when we'll be able to tour again. So we want to at least put it out there for people to see and hope that one day we can actually play it live. But if we can't, then, at least it wasn't completely for nothing.
Looking back on To Plant a Seed, here in 2021, kind of, what sort of pops in your head about that time, about that record? Thinking, how long you guys been able to stay around? What really pops out about that time of your life and that album?
I think the craziest thing to me with that entire record and everything we did was in that week we were out playing it. I don't know, man. I had this weird feeling when we were rehearsing it and getting ready for it. I was excited for the tour. But in the back of my mind, I kept having this feeling like, does anybody still care about this record? Is anyone going to be there? I mean, this came out a long time ago. I don't even know if our fans that listen to that record are even still into this kind of music. In the very first show of the tour, it was nuts. And then every night after that, it was nuts. And all the shows were sold out and people were singing every word. And the craziest thing to me was that we released that record so long ago. And so many people still love it and still know all the words. And I don't know, that's something pretty wild because I couldn't even remember some of the words to those songs. I had to go back and practice them. And meanwhile, a bunch of our fans still know them. So that's pretty badass.
Right. Before we get out of here, do you have any like final thoughts about, this debut album from, We Came as Romans, To Plant a Seed, just any, final thoughts you want to put out there?
Man, I can't ever, I mean, I know I made fun of the one song on it, but I can't ever hate on that record because it gave us a really nice foundation to build everything else we've done, build a team and build an awesome fan base. And it's crazy, man. Like just growing up through it and helping our fans grow up through it. And the record that started it all, it's super special to me and all the guys. So yeah, it's cool to be able to still talk about it and play it and everything else, that it's still alive in a sense.
Definitely. It's been great talking with you, Dave.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been great talking with you. Where can people go online to get more information about, the show coming up, and then, just keep tabs on what We Came as Romans doing?
We do a pretty good job like posting on our social medias and stuff. So especially the band ones. I'm horrible at my personal one, so don't follow me. But yeah, the band's socials are great. Our Facebook, Instagram, especially. If you're a Twitter guy, I think we post in there a little bit. But yeah, check out our Instagram, Facebook, all that.
And you're easily Googleable, man. We Came as Romans. It comes up.
Boom.
Boom.
Easy.
Ain't got to search.
Yeah.
All right, man. Again, it was great talking with you. And
Hell yeah.
Thanks for breaking down this incredible album, with me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me and talking through it, dude.
Thank you for listening to the Renaissance Soul podcast. Hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. Empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Renaissance Soul. Renaissance Soul theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Renaissance Soul is available on all streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Renaissance Soul, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/freshastheword. Follow Renaissance Soul on social media on Instagram at RenSoulPodcast and on Twitter at RenSoulPod. And join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/freshastheword. And for more information on Renaissance Soul, visit freshasthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Renaissance Soul.